Hello and welcome to another episode of the Portrait Profits Show. Man, I am so glad that you are here with me today. I just noticed that the slide at the beginning of the show is the one for next week's episode. So the one for today is called It's Time to Set the Rules. We're going to be talking about building a policy manual and how that sounds like that's for a bigger company, but oh man, is it important for a small company, especially the solopreneur. We'll talk about that in a second. My name is Jim Landers, and my mission is simple. I help portrait photographers create an income doing what they love, an incredible income. Each week on the Portrait Profit Show, you get tips and systems on the business side of photography designed to help you gain a mastery over marketing and sales, reducing the struggles that most photographers face so you can finally get what you deserve. You're in the right place. Welcome to the Portrait Profit Show. The Portrait Profit Show is brought to you by Digital Pro Lab and Landers Photography School. So I am so grateful that you're here with me today. I'd like for you to do something for me. I want you to hit that like button, that love button. I want you to comment. I want you to ask questions. But before you do that, I want you to enter in. Let me put this up first. Before leaving a comment, I want you to go to StreamYard.com/Facebook. Just go to that link and it will give you permission. It'll give us permission or StreamYard permission to be able to use your name. Otherwise, I don't know who you are. I don't see you. And the only people that I see are those who have gone through this step and registered. Now, if you just want to watch anonymously, then don't do that. But if you're okay with me knowing that you're here, and if you were to make a comment, you're fine with me seeing your name, then please go ahead and do that. Now, on some platforms, and I'm not sure which ones, it doesn't work. I don't know how that happens, how it's inconsistent like that. But please try anyway. And there are a handful of people who've let me know that they have done that, and it still shows up as an anonymous user, which from my side says Facebook user. But we simulcast this show to 8 different places, 5 different Facebook groups, 2 YouTube channels, and 1 LinkedIn page. And so if you are on any one of those, you can't see anyone else, but this StreamYard program causes me to be able to see those who register. So take a moment to do that. And then in the comment section, if you're watching live, do me a favor and let me know by entering in #live. And go one step further. Hit the share button. Let other people know about this. When you help others, you're not hurting yourself. You're helping others. And if you believe in that philosophy, there's a share button for you. Let other people know about this. Help others in that small, simple way. Hit that share button. And if you know someone in particular, someone specific, then in the comments, put the @ symbol in their name, and they will get a direct message saying that this show is live right now, or they can watch it later. So again, enter in #live. Let me know that you're here live. And feel free to enter any comments in there, like, hey, Jim, how's it going? Glad you're here. Good to see you again. I love all of that stuff. And yeah, I do read it. I do. It's not hard. So I'm encouraging you to do that. #live if you're watching live. And of course, if you're watching this as a replay, do me a favor and enter in #replay. All right. Enough about that stuff for now, because I really want to get into the subject. It's long. In fact, I teach this, obviously, all the things that I share with you, I teach. And this one is quite a bit longer than what I'm able to share with you today because, well, it's only an hour-long show, and there's quite a bit to share. And I'm going to go through it kind of quickly. And so I do recommend that you take notes as you go. However, you might want to just watch and watch it later and take notes then, or just lightweight notes for now, unless you're driving, of course. Don't do that. So let's talk today about it's time to set the rules. This is about your policy manual. You may be thinking, why would I need a policy manual? I mean, if you're just a small business, You may be thinking, why do I need this? Why would this be important? How could this, I mean, shouldn't I be spending times on more important things? I hear you. And it isn't that you're wrong. There are a lot of important things to do in a photography business. However, this represents the road signs on your path to success. So even if you are a solopreneur, maybe especially if, there's no reason not to have a policy manual. I believe that it is an essential part of a successful small business or any business because it causes you to think thoroughly through the guidelines of running your business. Your policy manual should answer the question why you have your rules. By forming policies and implementing them, you're you ensure consistency in your operations and your strategy and your workflow. I I understand the thought of building a policy manual may feel weird or intimidating, but you know what? As your business grows, and I hope it does, I hope it does, it becomes increasingly important and more difficult to create because you get busier with day to day stuff. You might as well do it right now. Take the time to do it now, today. Think of it as adding road signs on the path to your definition of success. Now, there are 7 things that a policy manual does. It outlines the policies, beliefs, and reasons of the different parts of your business. It sets clear expectations, like is your delivery time 2 days or 2 months? It provides an easy reference for your decision making. It increases confidence, it increases clarity. It serves as a reference guide for business operations. It covers how to work and expectations for contractors and vendors. And it provides a clear foundation for the future. You might want to think of your policies as the rules to a board game. They help establish clear expectations and guidelines so that your business runs smoothly and efficiently. A policy manual is also a reference for employees if you have them now or if you may have them in the future. Overall, it helps to ensure that everyone's on the same page when it comes to the expectations and standards that you want for your business. Everyone includes prospects, clients, alliances, vendors, providers, everyone who cares about your business and wants to see it succeed. A policy manual sets the standards that you wish to maintain throughout your business and helps keep everyone on the path that you've mapped out. It's like a compass that is guiding you and your employees on the path in their decision making, and enables them to take action um, without them having to stop and ask you questions along the way, wasting your time. Without one, you're just hoping that everything will just work out every time, like magic. No one likes inconsistent results or not knowing what to do. So a policy manual helps to ensure consistency in accordance with your rules. Now, I've got a handful of questions to get your mind flowing towards creating policies, to understanding further why it's important, but to get your mind more directed in this direction that helps you to actually create this. And I want to, um, uh, you know, I want to use this handful of questions to get your mind flowing because it's you must not only know the answers to these questions, you you must also know how to convey the answers to the questions. Define the reason why you want to do it and determine a process to consistently make it happen. So here's a handful of questions. How far in advance can someone book a session? You want to have an answer to that question. You want to have an answer to all of these. What evenings are you available for appointments and sessions? Are you available on weekends? Every weekend or limited? How soon do you respond to by phone, email, or web form? Do you include digital files? If so, are there limitations? Are there added costs? Are they watermarked, retouched, resized? Are there times when they're included and times when they're not? You need to define it. It needs to be part of your policies. Do you have your own style or can a client tell you what they want? Maybe it's a little of both. How do you share your work with your clients? USB drive, online file transfer service, e-commerce, the post and pray method, in-person presentation projected on their wall, whatever it is, you have to define it. How do you make sure your prints are of the highest quality? Isn't that something you'll say? Something you care about? How do you know? Well, because you're using Digital Pro Lab, of course. Digitalprolab.com, by the way. You probably know that, but just in case. What happens if you experience a problem in delivering your prints to your clients on time? How do you communicate that? How long does it take to deliver the finished prints after after the order's been placed? Do you mount the prints to give them extra sturdiness? If so, do you do that with all sizes? Do you offer framing? Do you allow your clients to do it if you do? These are just a small fraction of the questions that you need answers and solutions to. What I'm hoping is that these questions are causing you to see the need to define your policies so that you have a smoothly running business that is consistent and easy to understand for all concerned. A response like, I know my clients appreciate getting their prints sooner rather than later, so I always try to deliver as quickly as possible, might sound like a good answer. It's vague, it's subjective. You must be specific with your policies. Something like maybe a 3-week turnaround. That makes sure that all involved are clear on the outcome that you, as the business owner, want. Plus, since you are tracking things, it's measurable. By the way, you do want to track things because you want to measure, am I doing things the way I expect to? And if not, maybe answer the question, why not? Now, before I go on, I want to know, you guys hearing this? Is this making sense so far? I'm going to go into a bunch of details here in just a moment, but do you understand so far why you must create a policy manual? Because you've got to define what it is that you do, how to convey it, what the solutions are. We've got to do this ahead of time. We've got to think through. Now, there's a lot of times along the way that you will learn things and you'll add them to your policy. So I'm not saying you need to know everything to begin with. You can't know everything to begin with, but there's a lot of things you do know. And so we need to write them down. Is this resonating with you? If it is, do me a favor in the comments section right now. Put yes. Just yes. You're welcome to put more. This is great. Thanks, Jim. Whatever you want. But at the very least, tell me that you're hearing what I'm saying so far. Interact. Let me know you're here. Hit that like button. Hit that love button each time you hear something you like. Now, I want you to think about this in a somewhat abstract way, but in a way that's a cliche that you've heard a million times, and that's thinking outside of the box. I have a different take on this. You've heard the saying, think outside the box. So I am wondering, what box? Because generally speaking, that's a general comment. We can't know what the box is made of. We assume that everybody knows what we're talking about. But assumption, really? If there's room not to assume, don't assume. You have the ability to ask questions. So, what box? Whose box are we talking about? Have you built your box yet? So that you have something to think outside of? Here's my opinion on thinking outside the box. You can't think outside the box if you've never created your box. This idea isn't just limited to the creative side of photography. It's also including the business side too. I want to go over 3 steps to creating your box, which also include creating your policy manual. In other words, your boundaries, your rules, your scope of business, your expectations. This way you are clear, but also so that you become better at conveying who you are and what you do with your clients, your prospects, your employees, if applicable. The result of this effort forms the basis for your policy manual. First, understand why you need a box. You've heard of and likely believe in the philosophy of exceeding expectations. And you've heard that it's a good idea to over under promise and over deliver. But here's the thing. That assumes that you've done a good job of setting the expectations of the job and of working with you so that you actually have the potential to exceed those expectations. Otherwise, you're assuming. And your client might not even realize that you have exceeded expectations. Otherwise, you are unknowingly inviting their own preconceived ideas in place of what you intended for them. Humans fill in the gaps. Where there is a gap, where there is uncertainty, we fill it with assumption. So let's fix that before it becomes a problem. Almost none of the clients that I've worked with have already done these steps that I'm talking about now and I'm about to talk about. And those that maybe had some inkling of a policy manual, it was incomplete at best. It's just not something that a lot of us are thinking about. Most photographers assume that things are just the way they are, that everyone knows this stuff, that what they do is normal and that others know what that norm is. But that is completely unrealistic. Your client doesn't read your mind. The only thing you're truly safe to assume is that they know nothing about your business and how you do things. So you must tell them. Again, one of the goals of a service-oriented business is often to over-deliver and under-promise. But how can you possibly do that if you've never set the expectations? It is your responsibility to define client expectations, vendor expectations, associate expectations, employees, contractors, interns, everyone that you're going to cross paths with. It's your responsibility to set expectations. Don't leave this up to them and you to just simply assume. Define the things that form your business policies, your box, right away. And make sure that every one of your prospects, your vendors, your associates know what they can expect from working with you before they choose to work with you. Now, if you've been watching this show for any length of time, you've heard me say this next part before, but it's time to say it again. We all have what I call a belief filter that we experience life through. We see everything through a figurative filter of accumulated experiences, stories that we've heard, books that we've read, people that we look up to and believe, and our education. Sometimes we believe that we know something before hearing the whole story. We know how to react. We know what we've done, thought, or avoided before. But moving forward without enough knowledge can cause trouble. Do not assume anything that has the potential to not be assumed. In other words, ask questions and learn multiple ways of looking at the same thing. Would it be fair for a judge to hear just one side of the story before making a decision? And don't give me that's different. Come on. If that's fair, then it's fair across the board. Clients come in with their own preconceived ideas, their thoughts, their expectations. In other words, their own belief filter. Maybe you don't include your digital files with the sale, but maybe the last photographer they worked with did. So, do you think that if you don't set the expectations and share how you do business, that there just might be a problem? All right. Second step is to define your box. There's a ton of stuff in this next section. Details. There are thousands of things that you do for your clients. There are things that you expect of your clients, of your vendors, and there are things that they expect too, any of which can ruin a business relationship. You've seen it before. Something you thought that maybe wasn't all that important, but a person got incredibly upset about it. When you define expectations, this is likely not to happen. Now, we're talking about policy manual, but it does lead into procedure manual. And so let me briefly comment on this. I I don't want you to be thinking procedure manual just yet, although this forms the basis for it. So you may be thinking about procedure manual. So while this chapter is about your policies, you must create a procedure manual. So let's talk about the difference between the two. A policy manual sets the base for forming your procedures as well as your business plan, because a policy manual is a guide for your business operations strategy and workflow. Procedures help to make sure you're consistent and don't miss any steps. A procedure manual provides an operational roadmap with step-by-step instructions on how to get from point A to point B. However, a policy manual is kind of like a set of guardrails that keep your business from going off the side of the road. Policies are essential for setting guidelines and expectations to ensure that everything and everyone works together effectively. Think of policies as the foundation for laying down the path that takes your business to the success you deserve. Now, let's talk about, by the way, if this is helping, do me a favor and tell me in the comments. You can do that multiple times. They don't restrict that. And I like it. It makes me feel good. Tell me something. Are you hearing this? Does it sound good? Is it resonating? Are you hearing some things you haven't heard before, or maybe in a different way than you've heard before? Tell me something in the comments. Add it in there. Also, if you're liking or loving what you hear, click that like button, click that love button. I like seeing that. All right. So here's the sections of a policy manual. Now, a policy manual includes a variety of subsections. You may not include every single one that I'm about to list. You might include some that I have not listed. It's because every business is different and every person's goals are different. It'd be like saying two different board games have to have the same number of rules. Well, that doesn't even make sense. You are creating the rules to your game. This is your game. You set the rules. Here are 18 subsections to consider. I'm going to first list them and then go into more detail on each one. So here's just the list. A scope of services and products, client service policy, client relations policies, sometimes called communications policies, by the way, availability, pricing policy, payment policies, refund and return policies, privacy and confidentiality policy, terms of use policy. By the way, don't try to keep up with this. I'm just making the list. I'm going to go into detail on each one here in just a second. Copyright policy, cancellation and rescheduling policies, photography policies, a code of conduct, health and safety policy, emergency policy, equipment policy, archive policy, and special situations. All right, let's spend some time with each of these 18 sections that I've just mentioned. And we're going to begin with the scope of services and products. The scope of services and products is a policy that outlines the specific services and products, as well as the expectations that you provide to your clients. It helps to establish clear expectations for clients about what services are included and what are not. By defining the scope of each service, including the expectations for completion of services and products, and any disclaimers, limitations, variables, a scope of services policy can help to prevent misunderstandings and miscommunications between the business and its clients. It also provides a framework for the business to follow when delivering services, ensuring that all team members are on the same page and providing a consistent level of service to the clients. Additionally, a scope of services policy can help to minimize disputes and conflicts, as clients will have a clear understanding of what it is they're paying for and what it is they can expect. So that was scope of services. Now we're going to move into the client service policy. This includes being responsive to client inquiries and concerns, and making the process as simple as and straightforward as possible. The next is a client relations policy, sometimes called a communications policy. So client relations or communications policy. This provides guidance on how you interact with clients, including communication, consultation, feedback, that kind of thing. Next is availability policy. Some of these make a lot of sense just by saying the name, but we're going to go into each one of them a little bit anyway. This is when and how you're available, and what someone can do if you're not available. This includes your business hours, your personal working hours. That's hours that you might work that you won't necessarily share as available, but it's part of your policies. Purposeful time off, maybe something like maybe you don't want to work on Sundays. All right. So include how you can be reached during regular business hours and how someone can reach you or leave a message afterwards. That's availability policy. If this is helping you today, tell me in the comments. Say it helps. I want to hear it. Tell me in the comments. All right. Next is your pricing policy. I love talking about prices. A pricing policy outlines the pricing structure for your business. In other words, how are you coming up with your pricing? It's not coming out of thin air, is it? You're not looking at other photographers' websites and basing it off of that, are you? I hope not. Most photographers are struggling. And if you want to struggle too, do what they're doing. So don't do it that way. Pricing policy establishes clear expectations for you to continue to keep up with changes, as well as anyone that you're working with, so employees or other team members, so that and also so that your clients understand and this your pricing. So this is helping to avoid confusion and misunderstandings. And pricing is one of the big areas that people have misunderstandings in. So we want to be real clear on this. We want to be clear on all of these policies. By outlining your pricing structure in a price policy, you can ensure that your clients understand what they are paying for with you. They understand how you price your services. You understand how you price your services. It's based in something real. It also helps build trust with clients by showing you have a transparent and consistent approach. You have the ability to answer questions on why your price is the way it is. Additionally, a price policy can help to prevent pricing disputes and make it easier for you not to cave on your prices when someone asks for a lower price. So it's the foundation to making your price list. That moves us to the payment policy. Now, the payment policy outlines how payments are received, how you accept them, the types of payments that you accept, when payment is due, any applicable fees or charges, and why you are making this your policy. It's important to answer the question why on every one of these. It's important to be clear and specific when creating a payment, uh, and to consider the types of payment accepted, the payment due dates, the payment terms to ensure that client satisfaction and protecting the interests of your business, ensuring both the photographer and the client are on the same page when it comes to payment expectations. Let me give you an example of a payment policy, and because sometimes that description is good, but this sometimes helps. You could say something along the lines of, "We accept cash, check, credit card, or and online payment methods," and maybe you list those. So Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, whatever. And and maybe you don't want to accept checks. Maybe you don't want to accept cash. Whatever your, wh- I don't see any reason not to accept cash, but you might not want to accept checks. Okay, so whatever it is, you define it. Maybe you say, and you have everything's paid up front, or maybe you say you have a refundable deposit of 50% that's due at the time of booking to secure your session and date time. I don't like doing the 50% here, 50% there. I'm already talking about price. Why don't I just take care of it? It'd be like saying, I'm living in San Antonio. I'm driving to Austin, but I stop overnight in San Marcos. Why? Why not go the whole way? It's not that much of a problem. Now, some of you are thinking, well, because I can make the price sound lower. Come on, people can add. You're fooling yourself. That's just my opinion. You do what's best for you. You may say that maybe when someone orders the prints at the print order session, that they pay 50% down and 50% when on delivery. I don't even like that. Just take care of it. Let's just do it now. But you're doing it your way. Um, you may say that payment is due in full at the time of booking sessions or booking events. You may say that there's late fees that apply. So it's up to you, but these are things you want to consider in that payment policy. Now, what happens if someone asks for a refund? Well, now we need a refund or return policy. This isn't something that you're going to be happy about, but we need to think about it. You must anticipate that it's going to happen and how to deal with it in a professional and consistent manner. Writing out your process of carrying out a refund helps to ensure that both you and your client are on the same page when it comes to those refund expectations, and it protects the interest of the business. Now, let's give an example, not necessarily mine, but an example of a refund or reschedule or return policy. Um, so, in this instance, the return or refund policy is also including a reschedule. And because I would much rather them reschedule than refund. And so notice that it starts off with talking about rescheduling. Now I have a section in just a moment. I'll talk about rescheduling, but I'm including it here in this example of a refund. If you need to reschedule your session, we require at least 48 hours notice. If you need to reschedule with less than 48 hours notice, your deposit will be forfeited and a new deposit will be required to secure a new date. If you need to cancel your session, your deposit will be forfeited. Uh, if you cancel with less than 48 hours, the remaining balance is going to be due if you owe any. If you're unhappy with any of your images, we offer one round of revisions at no additional charge. If we're unable to meet your expectations after the revisions, we will offer a refund. If you have any questions about our payment and refund policy, please don't hesitate to contact us. Now, that is one that you see pretty often with obviously changes to it. And so that's why I use that one because it was kind of a a mixture of a bunch of different refund policies. It's not the one that I use, but that is an example of one. Let's talk about privacy policy or confidentiality. A privacy policy outlines the types of personal information that you are collecting, the purposes that the reasons why you are collecting it, how it's collected, how it's stored, and any guidelines for sharing it for your business. It's clear and transparent, and it helps to protect the privacy of your clients and your business interests. So, this is something you'll often see on contracts and on websites. And this next one I'm going to talk about is also on websites. Before I get to that, just to summarize what a privacy policy is, it's important to be clear and transparent when creating a privacy policy for your business, and to consider the types of personal information collected, the purposes for collecting it, how the information is collected and stored, and any guidelines for sharing it to protect all parties. Let's move into the terms of use policy. Again, something you will often find on the contracts and on websites. A terms of use policy, also known as a terms of service policy, is a set of rules that outlines the terms and conditions under which a portrait photographer's website and services are provided. A terms of use policy can help protect the interests of the photographer and ensure that the client understands and agrees to the terms and conditions of using the photographer and their services. A portrait photographer needs a terms of use policy to protect your intellectual property. A terms of use policy can help to protect your intellectual property, including the images and other content, by setting out the terms under which your work can be used and shared. It limits liability, it sets the terms for payments and refunds, and it establishes rules for conduct. You can see some of these things do overlap. Terms of use policy is an important document that helps to protect the business owner's interests and to ensure that the visitors to your websites, your prospects, your clients understand and agree to the terms and conditions of using your services. Let me let me give a brief example of that and just part of it. So let's say it's on your website. So by accessing this website or using the services of your business name, you agree to be bound by these terms of use. If you do not agree to these terms, please do not use these websites or our services. The content of this website, including text, images, and other materials, is property of your business name and is protected by copyright and other intellectual property laws. You may not use this content for any commercial purposes without the express written consent of your name or your business name. You're making no representations or warranties about the accuracy or completeness. You can just imagine it's just a bunch of legal stuff, and you can find these things all over. Good examples on different places like the PPA website. You can find good examples of this. All of these things that I am sharing with you today, I do help photographers write. And it is real time consuming to write all this stuff. And most photographers never get around to doing it, and they may start, but most photographers never finish. So this is something I do help photographers with. It's one of the many things I do to make sure there's food on my table. So I can help you with that if that's what you want. Let's move into copyright policy. So this is this is how you define how you want to handle your intellectual property. A copyright policy outlines the ownership and usage rights for the photographs and your services. It establishes a clear and comprehensive guideline on how your work may be used and protects your rights to your work. So it may include things like copyright ownership, usage rights, model release, attribution. Uh, I don't know if everyone knows what attribution is. So this is a policy that states whether attribution is required when the photographs are used. Um, in other words, credited. You probably have heard that word credited more often. How do you want if you want your images credited when someone uses them, how do you want them credited? So that could be something like the Circle C, the year, your business name, and your geographic information. For me, that would be San Antonio, Texas, USA. So, however you want that to appear, this is where that information goes. Attribution. And number five, enforcement. Um, uh, the total of five that I just listed there. So, the copyright ownership, usage rights, model release, attribution, and enforcement. This policy outlines the steps that you're going to take if you have need to enforce your copyright, such as issuing a takedown notice or pursuing legal action, or just simply documenting it and really nothing else. You definitely want to document it though, because if you let something slide the first time and someone keeps on doing it, well, now you've documented it and you've got a case, potentially. No matter what you feel is important or the appropriate action, make sure to document whatever it is you chose to do, though. A copyright policy helps to protect your intellectual property rights, ensure that your work is used in only the ways that you've authorized, and it helps to prevent disputes over your copyright. So, in this section, I recommend writing a copyright ownership policy that includes understanding. First, you need to understand copyright law, so read over that. Then you may want to register your copyright. It's not a requirement, but you may want to do that. You uh, Writing your copyright notice. Now you can find more information about this on copyright.gov, copyright.gov, or I can help you with it. Either way, pretty involved. And so, uh, as far as the copyright notice, define how you want to include your copyright on your photographs. So this is going to be several different ways. For instance, I embed it into when I'm in Lightroom or Photoshop. I'm going to embed it into the file information so that my copyright information is there. But when I print it, that obviously is not going to be available. So how do I do it then? Well, that's when I make this little, I'm going to put it on the screen right now. I have this little sticker that goes on the back of all of my prints. And this shows the copyright information. You can see the Circle C, the 2023, this year, my business name, and my geographical information. Under that is the job information. That P stands for portrait, A stands for adult Smith. So that means it's a headshot probably of someone whose last name is Smith. And then the image number that was. So DSC underscore 1234.jpg. So that this helps me to know, if they want to reorder later, that tells me where to find this image so I can reprint it for them. But it also shares that this is copyrighted. Don't assume that people understand copyright, because they don't. I don't know about you, but when I was in school, copyright was taught, but it was the plagiarism side. So they if you're talking about all of copyright law, they squeezed out this little section on plagiarism, which is incredibly important. And I think everyone got the message that you're not supposed to take someone else's work and place your name on it. And so I think everybody got that. But this applies, of course, to photographs or anything created. Even if you drew something on a napkin while having dinner, it's copyrighted the moment you complete it. It's yours. Under the copyright law of 1976, it's your work. And as of 1989, you don't even have to put the Circle C on it. But I absolutely recommend that you do, because I don't know that everyone understands that everything is copyrighted, everything, unless there's something that says it's not. Now, we've got these new AI things that are coming up, growing and becoming pretty amazing, and they are using images that are copyrighted. This may be some gray area that's got to be worked out. I know Adobe came out with something, I think it was Wednesday of last week, that said that their entire library is available for AI, and that they somehow have the permission of everyone who's put their images in there. I don't understand how that's possible, and maybe I misunderstood, but things are changing. And we're going to, at some point in the future, get an expert on the Portrait Profit Show to interview and ask them questions about this kind of stuff, probably during this coming summer. So that's coming. And so the next part of the copyright is a signed written agreement. I want you to create a form, or even better, include this notice in your contract specifying who owns the copyrights to your photographs. Guys, you own the copyrights to your photographs. You might think, well, they're buying it, so therefore they're buying the copyright. Only if you sell it to them. They don't automatically get it. You're in business. You own the copyright. Now, if you are working for them, if you're an employee, now they own those images you created. But you own them if you created them. There are instances where you do need to sell the copyright. For instance, commercial work. Most commercial work, a lot of it, you're going to have to sell your copyright, and that is going to cost them extra. That's why when you see the pricing on commercial work, it tends to be pretty darn high, but appropriate for what you're trying to do, what the goal is there. All right. I believe that you also need to monitor the usage. I don't recommend becoming a detective, but have an eye open to monitor the usage of your photographs and ensure they're not being used without your permission. And like I said before, define how you're going to move forward if you discover unauthorized work or use of your work, from doing nothing to taking appropriate legal action. And when I say do nothing, that doesn't really mean do nothing, because you at least need to record it. You need to document it. Creating copyright ownership is an important step for protecting your intellectual property. So I do recommend that you learn at least a little bit about copyright law. And one way to do that is by going back and looking at past episodes of the Portrait Profit Show, because in one of them we spent the entire hour talking about copyright law. In fact, I think we may have done it twice. So go back and look at that. Today is episode number 110. So there's a lot of good information that you could look back over. Enough about copyright. Man, I could keep on keeping on about this one. It's a huge section in my classes. In fact, it's probably about another hour's worth or more, maybe 2 or 3 hours worth of information. So let's move on to the cancellation and scheduling policy. This provides guidance on how cancellations and reschedules are handled, and any fees that you may charge, any caveats, any limitations. That's your cancellation and rescheduling policy. How about photography policies? This outlines your style, your vision, your how you do things, what your approach is to photography, your techniques, the equipment you choose to use. By the way, there is an equipment policy that I'll go over here in just a minute. Code of conduct. This describes what you believe to be your ethical standards, the ethical standards that your business follows in all aspects of you doing business. The next is health and safety, describing the health and safety protocols your business follows. What do you do if you get sick? What are your procedures? What are your steps? Do you have a photographer backup plan? This is where you write it. This section includes any cleaning procedures related to a healthy environment. So we're going to get into special situations. Here's the last one of the 18. And that is an overlap with this one because, like, COVID. So I'll bring that back up here in just a moment. Now, emergency policy. What do we do in an emergency? Something comes up during a session at any point in time, maybe an emergency that is related to your office or your home. So how do you respond to different emergencies, both natural, fire, flood, and things like car accident, a break-in, stolen equipment, etc. How will you handle these unusual emergencies that hopefully will never happen? But how will you deal with them? What's the plan? Equipment policy. Now, I touched on that just a moment ago when I said photography, but this is more in depth on your equipment. This is your maintenance procedures, a description of when it's time to purchase new equipment. What are your philosophies on that? What is your policy? What are your rules? And then two more: archive policy. Not all of you are going to do this one, but most of you keep it for at least a little while. I keep mine, period. But I keep all of my digital files and the negatives I created before that. It's an extra responsibility, but I've chosen to accept it. Make sure to research this option, though. Make sure that it's right for you before taking on this long-term responsibility. I know that a lot of you will not want to do that, and that's fine, but you need a policy about it. Why are you choosing what you're choosing? What's your archive policy? How long can someone order the photographs after they've been created? I've seen some that are short as 2 weeks, and then they say they delete it. I don't know that they do, but that's what they say. So what's your policy? It's up to you. Last one, number 18, is the special situations. And these come up from time to time. These are not necessarily things you can write into your policy manual when you create your policy manual. These are things that will be addressed as you come across them, but you add them. So situations arise, add them in. Even if it's just temporary, that's fine, add it in. For a time, I don't have this anymore, but for a time I had a COVID policy that explained how we would clean the studio in between sessions and some other things that were included in that as well. The different things that we did in the office to accommodate that particular special situation. Now, you may say that's in the health and safety. It is. There's some overlap there, but that definitely is a special situation that doesn't need to be there any longer unless you choose for it to be. That's up to you. Next thing, I want you to, by the way, in the comment section, if you heard some things in those 18 that you've never heard before, tell me in the comment section. Say something like, this is helping, or eye opener. Let me know what it is you're feeling, what you're thinking. I can't read your mind. You're going to actually have to tell me. Type it in. Yeah, I know I'm asking a lot. Do me a favor, though. You could do it simply as, thanks, Jim. This is great. Or I appreciate it. Or never even thought about this stuff before. Oh, man. Whatever it is you want to say, put in that comment section. I love seeing that stuff. Please put that in the comment section. In fact, let me look at the comments real quick. I haven't been doing that. Let me do some shout outs. Good. I'm seeing several Facebook users, and so I appreciate you guys being here. And shout outs to Janice and Robin and Lupe and Dave, Tony, Rick, Miguel, Sharon, more Facebook users. I'm glad you guys are here, Jerome. So you guys are awesome. I'm glad you guys are here watching my show, the Portrait Prophet Show. All right. So we've just completed listing the 18 different sections of your policy manual. Next, I mentioned that there were 3 sections of creating your box. This is to describe your box, communicating your expectations and your process. Now, in your policy manual, in those different sections, you actually need to do this. But I want to bring this out just a little bit because I want you to think about, there's a few variables that I want you to think about, because I don't like it. And I bet you're in the same category, at least some of you. I don't like it when someone says to me, I'm at some business, and their response to a question that I've asked is, well, that's our policy. It sounds to me like they're lazy. It sounds like they want an out. It sounds like they neither care about me nor the concern that I've just brought up. So let's discuss ways to communicate, or the importance of communicating your policies, because I'm never recommending that you just say, well, that's my policy. I want you to explain why it's your policy. And when you think about it ahead of time, it makes it real easy to do that. So make sure that in each one of these policies you've created, you have your why. Your policy manual is the foundation for conveying the way you do business with your clients, your vendors, your associates, so that all concerned have a great experience working with you. Once you have created your policy manual, it's not done, but once you've created it, I want you to track your policies. I want you to make notes. I want you to make adjustments as needed, but don't do it like crazy. Don't do it all the time. Just take notes. I want you to evaluate the effectiveness of your policies. Monitor the feedback that you get and how it impacts your business. Adjust your policies to maximize its effectiveness. So that's what's called tracking your policies. Now, a few closing thoughts, because you've done something that many photographers haven't and won't ever. Not necessarily because they're unwilling, but because they just didn't know. But you going through this process of at least thinking about building your policy manual, but hopefully implementing one, you have put yourself ahead of the crowd by educating yourself about building a strong foundation for your business by creating a policy manual. When you take the time to outline your business policies, your philosophies, your rules, you've set yourself up for success and you become ready to tackle any challenge that comes your way. Remember, your policy manual must be updated and refined as your business evolves. So keep up the great work, stay positive, and keep pushing forward. So that was it's time to set the rules. But as you know, we do the Portrait Profit Show every single Monday, meaning that we have some shows that are coming up in the future. So let's talk about those upcoming shows. The one we have coming up for next week is called Take Action. Enough talking, enough researching. You have what it takes. Jump in and make things happen now before you lose your momentum. We'll be talking about the different things that you can easily do to move forward on your goals and reaching whatever your definition is of success in next week's show. By the way, this is the last one of this month. The next one is on April 3rd, and it's called Take Action. Please add that to your calendar. And then the next one after that is the second Monday of the month, where we're going to be talking about taking action from three different people's perspectives. We'll have three panelists on to share their perspectives. So that way, you're not only hearing what my point of view is on taking action, you're going to hear three additional points of view. I'm going to have some questions for them, and they all get to answer that same question so that you can hear three different points of view on the same subject. Now, we move on second Monday of every month, we move the time from noon to 6:30 in the evening. So make sure when you add this to your calendar that you put it at 6:30 in the evening. Panel discussion. Taking Action, 6:30, April 10th. And then the last one I have to share with you today is April 17th, and this is the signs on your road to success. Obviously, the policy manual is part of it, but a lot of other things that we've been talking about over the past several weeks. I'm going to highlight these and summarize them and to bring it all into a very short 1-hour presentation so that we can clearly see at least the surface level of what it is that we need to do to get out on that path and to make sure that we are heading in the right direction, that we are on not just good roads, that we are on the right road that leads to whatever our definition of success is. That's on April 17th. I want to thank you guys for being here today to watch the It's Time to Set the Rules episode. And I want to close with this, because this is bringing us to the end of another Portrait Profit show. And before I do that, in the comment section, if you found this helpful, valuable, tell me. Just say, thank you. It was helpful. I got something out of this. I appreciate it. Tell me something in the comments right now. Take a moment, type that in. I want to hear what you have to say about the show. And you can keep it short. It could be just a simple thanks. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, just as simple as that. I love it. I'll even include those in after the show, and I'm closing it at the show and just the music is playing. I'll include those if you send those. So Portrait Profits, friends, this brings us to the end of another show, and I want to leave you with this. Way to go, Policy Manual Pro. You know more about making a policy manual than 95% of your fellow photographers. Now, be a part of the top 1% and build your policy manual so that you can take on anything that comes your way, from the tricky customers to unexpected obstacles. I encourage you to make time today. And if you just simply can't, add it to your calendar. Schedule time, set aside some time to write your policy manual, to rewatch this show and take notes. Or reach out to me, Jim at landersphotoschool.com, and we can do it together. Yes, I charge for that, of course. But I can help you with this, and in a very short period of time, relatively speaking. I encourage you to take time today, because when you build your policy manual, you gain the power to make informed decisions and rock your business like the boss you are. For Landers Photography School and Digital Pro Lab, my name is Jim Landers, and I'm bringing you the weekly Portrait Profit Show, giving you evolving content, awareness, and even fun to the business side of photography as we unpack the mysteries of business with tips and systems and insights to help you with the struggles that you deal with now, so that you are constantly realigned to the success that you deserve. Thank you for watching the Portrait Profit Show. I look forward to watching you grow. Thank you, guys. Bye for now.